Hello, hello.
Hello.
I am hoping we're live here. So I'm so excited to be back. I've missed you ladies. I've been on vacation for the past 10 days and it feels so good to be back. I just have to say, it feels so good to be back. I love traveling and I love coming home. So
That's
I
awesome.
am super excited because today I am talking with the fabulous Delora Guignion and I'll tell you what, she's a super amazing lady and she's got a business called Mindsex Mentor. And basically what she does, she works with men and women and combines mindset and sexual energy to create sizzle between the sheets, passion in their life and profit in their business. So I'm super excited to be talking with her today. We're going to be diving into some juicy, juicy things. So I would love it, Delora, if you would just give us a quick introduction and kind of where you started and what led you on this path.
I'm happy to. So thank you for having me. I also think you're amazing. It's so great to meet other people that are working in a similar space. So I've been doing this full time for 3 years in a business sense, but honestly, as always, when you find your passion, you reflect back, you've actually been doing it much longer. So I was a happy mom of four. I was working in a government job that was, cushy, six figures, all the bells and whistles, thinking I had the perfect life. And then gradually I just found myself getting more and more frustrated, not able to help people, not able to make the impact that I wanted, and dealing with bureaucracy and the inefficiencies that were there. So it led me on a path to get my master's degree, which was in organizational leadership, but it was a values-based program, and part of it was coaching. And I fell in love and realized that every job I've had since I was 17 years old involved coaching people at some level, and or mentoring people. And so it led me to do this. Before this, I was a music manager accidentally for two people. But what happened with that is I was also coaching them and mentoring them, getting them ready to show up and helping them tackle some of the things that naturally come up of being in the public and trying to put your music out there and handling the critique and, what does this really mean? And it led me to mindset. And then I started a mindset business. But I was kind of, that's kind of boring. And I was doing really well. My clients were loving it, getting really great results. But it wasn't until I realized how often they talked to me about the sex side of things, even though we were primarily talking about business, that it really clicked and it took off. And then I had some women witness me take a gentleman through an exercise in 45 minutes. And they're like, oh my God, like, why aren't you doing this? And I said, this is what I do. And, it was very intimate, even though the three of them were watching. They were like, I can't believe he opened up like that. And he had some epiphanies, and Mindsex was born. They actually came up with the name while we were in that session. And I've been in love ever since. It was what I was doing, but sometimes when you have the label, it just kind of like feels sexy all of a sudden. So that's where it came from.
Yes. I love that name, Mindsex.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
so great.
it's so true. I mean, I feel like for me, what I found in my journey is that sexuality is the missing key in personal growth and development and just so many things. And I'd love for you to speak to that. And I know you work a lot with, sexual energy and how it relates to success. So yeah, please talk
Yeah.
a little more about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny if you ask anyone, what were you told about success, money, or sex when they were kids? It was usually always something that had shame and guilt are attached. Or, if you ask them, what were you told about money? It was don't talk about it. Don't, rich people are this, rich people are that. He must be a scumbag or he must be like sleazy, whatever it is. And then if you talk about sex, everybody's like whispering. You can't talk about that. And so it has the same energy behind it. And what people don't realize is that in your sexual energy is your creative energy. It's also your charismatic energy. And when you're trying to build a business or just relate to people, you have to have charismatic energy or they're not going to want to talk to you and feel very shut down. I always give the example of politicians because they're big figures and easy to kind of point to. But if you look at, and I'm Canadian, so it doesn't matter to me what political background you have. I take no offense either way, and I don't want you to take offense. My examples are Democrat, but only because they're more recent and great examples of this. But Bill Clinton was very charismatic and he captured people's attention. But there was something that we didn't quite believe. And as we know, he had this scandal with Monica Lewinsky, and that really took him down. But that was self-sabotage. He set himself up to sabotage himself because he didn't know how to deal with the success. That just wasn't something that was possible long-term. Now, this is all my conjecture, of course. There's a lot of things that feed into it, but I'm pretty sure this is what's happening. And then if you look at the Obamas, both of them were very charismatic. Either one of them could give a speech and people really rallied behind them. Even if you weren't Democrat, there was people like, oh, actually, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And they had people, you could tell that they had a lot of sexual chemistry between them, but nobody disrespected them. They had clear boundaries with each other. Other people approaching them. There was never any sex scandal because they owned that energy. Whereas Bill Clinton had no boundaries, and he stepped all over them all the time, and encouraged other people to be inappropriate with him. Then you have Hillary Clinton, who, arguably is really intelligent and has a lot to bring to the table, but people just couldn't buy her message either time that she ran for president. And it's because she's so shut down sexually. People can't buy her charisma. She had Beyonce and Jay-Z on stage with her, and nobody rallied behind her with that. Beyonce and Jay-Z. Are you kidding? It should have opened a whole other level for her, but it didn't. Mm-hmm. And because people sense that she's not telling the truth about something, and they assume it's about politics, but it could actually be about something in the bedroom, something personal. Mm-hmm. So that energy floats through all areas of our life. And when you don't own it in one area, it's going to affect everything else. So that's kind of the example I use to demonstrate how this can impact you.
I love that. And I actually, oh my goodness, how I wish we could get our hands on some of our leaders. They could benefit. Our worlds could benefit. Oh my goodness.
It's so true. Yeah. And all of this is it boils down to shame and guilt, right? Where money is treated so shamefully. If you ask a question of your parents about money, it's rarely embraced in a good way, in a healthy approach and open way, just like sex. So when you think about, you're going out there and you're going to ask for big bucks from someone, you're going to trigger that same shame and guilt as if you were going to go out and ask them to have sex with you. It's just the same thing that's happening.
Yeah. So the shame and guilt is huge. It's such an issue. And even, a lot of times people don't even realize that they have issues around shame and guilt. They might think they don't, but I think a lot of times the cultural conditioning runs so deep, you don't even realize. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh, it's so huge. Yeah. And people also think, shame and guilt, you have to question your self-worth, and people don't realize, well, I'm really confident, I can do that. But then you put them in a situation that's outside of their patterns and they can't do that. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that have to do videos like this, for example. If they were going to do an interview, they completely shut down and not be able to. I had one woman that I worked with, she wanted to do speaking engagements. And prior to working with her, she's like, well, I've had a lot of offers. I had 5 or 6 lined up, but I got a flat tire and my slides wouldn't work. I showed up late. Traffic was bad, all this stuff. What she didn't realize was she was self-sabotaging because she was so scared of being in front of a group of people. And we realized it was because when she was in high school, she was in math class. She was about 13 years old. She had a crush on a boy. She was sitting beside him, and his mother was the professor of the class. And she lives in a big city, so it was a really big class. And she was asked a question. She answered it wrong. He started laughing, and then so did the teacher / mother. And so for her, she had issues connecting with her own mother. So the mother figure and the teacher and the boy crush all laughed at her. No wonder she was never going to go up on stage again. But she hadn't thought of that incident since it happened, and she got over it. She thought, oh, this has nothing to do with it. I just really had a flat tire. Oh, she also had laryngitis, which mysteriously cleared up the next day. And I said, no, that's all your subconscious doing this. And it's so powerful because it doesn't want you to experience that humiliation again. Something that happened at 13, even though logically and consciously we know now, well, she wasn't unsafe. It's okay if someone laughs at you. You can handle that now. But her subconscious was so wrapped up in the shame of that, it doesn't want to experience it again. So it will do whatever it takes to shut it down.
Yeah, that subconscious likes to do its job.
Yeah, and it's so good at it, right? Yeah, I mean, hats off. I mean, I'm so grateful we have it because we don't have to think about the 23,000 times we take a breath a day. But if you had to think about breathing, you wouldn't get out of bed. You would just be sitting there breathing. That's all you would do. So it's really something to celebrate. But then when you think about the rest of your day, and I think the statistic is like 78% of our day is spent on autopilot. If you think about that, you're not able to really decide how you feel about something. Your subconscious is doing it for you. I use the example, if you drive to the grocery store, and then you look up and you're like, oh, how'd I get here? Well, I guess I drove here. But you don't think about it because your subconscious mind has taken over. Well, the same thing happens when you're reacting to something, when your beliefs show up. If you, like, someone talks to you about money and you kind of like flinch up, or someone, says something sexual and you get really upset. Well, wait a minute. Like, are you really upset by what they said? Or is that just what you've been conditioned to believe? And when you start getting people to be more conscious, they're like, oh, wait a minute, you're so right. I don't care about that at all, actually.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think we were talking about this too earlier, how your childhood messages really can cause you to self-sabotage and whatnot. So that you just spoke of a great example about that, the woman who was afraid of, public speaking. But do you have other examples of that you can point to?
Sorry, I just had someone walk in.
So we hit it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. My daughter and her boyfriend just walked in. Hi, guys. So can you repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, no worries. So basically what I was asking, we talked before about how, childhood messages can really cause you to self-sabotage. And you just give a good example of the woman who, couldn't speak in public because of that experience with the math teacher. But can you speak to some other examples of that? Because I think many of us are unaware how those kind of things can impact us and do those things, cause us to self-sabotage when we really have a goal.
Yeah, for sure. So if you need to let's just think of some messages that are common that we've all talked about, right? If you think about don't talk to strangers, if that was huge in your house, don't talk to strangers without a dire consequence. You'll get kidnapped. You could, someone could do something bad to you. Well, can you imagine how you're going to feel when you're dating and you're trying to show up and ask a guy out on a date? Or how about you're trying to talk to somebody new to get some new prospects in your business, or just to talk about your business because you want to talk about it, and they're a stranger? That same shame can be felt in the background. Sorry, I just have to...
No worries.
Gosh, sorry. I didn't know they were coming home, so I didn't warn them. So that same message will come up, that same worry and fear will show up, and you're like, well, wait a minute. You don't know that that's what you're reacting to. You don't know why. It's just like, well, I don't know what to say to them. Like, that's the obvious answer that will come to you. Well, I don't know who to talk to, or I don't know where I should be going with this. When you really probe them and get under it, you can realize that it's actually, they're scared to talk to strangers, and that is a childhood belief. But in reality, are you scared of talking to strangers? Can you handle it if it's an inappropriate stranger? Well, sure you can. So you need to then consciously choose something different and give yourself a new experience so your subconscious mind can try something else to shut you down instead of that. Yeah.
So I have another, let me ask you this about that I was just thinking of around that, because so you've noticed some of these things may be coming up. What would be some practical things you could do to maybe talk to yourself differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So
address that.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. And I always encourage people to write, because if you're not working with a coach, or even in between your sessions with your coach, you want to catch your subconscious mind and get it out of its head, in your head, because it has control of what's going on in here, right? It's a conversation you're having with yourself, and your subconscious mind has had however many years, in my case, 41 years, or when I started working on this stuff actively, let's say 30 years, in a certain direction. Well, that's a lot more than the time that I've been taking control of my thoughts. So it's really good at its job. And so if you're just having the conversation in here, you'll rationalize or tolerate or put up with all this stuff that's going to keep you off track and make sure that you're not able to do this stuff. And so, hi, Victoria, what do you need? Come and say hi. Hi. There's my oldest daughter.
Hello.
I'm just grabbing the ice cream.
Okay, all right. So when you're working with this stuff, we want to get it out of your head. That's why I encourage people to write. And here's some practical exercises. So there's one exercise. If you want to, let's say you're trying to get through a to-do list and you want to really get stuff done. And it can be, this can be in the bedroom. It could be that you want to try a new position, or you want to talk to your partner about trying something more fun, or you want to share something new with them, or you want to ask them to go on a date, whatever it is. Or maybe it's just simply getting stuff done in your business and you have a massive list and you're not able to get stuff done. What you can do is you can trick your mind into telling you why you're not being successful. It has nothing to do with how busy you are. It has nothing to do with motivation. It has nothing to do with not knowing how. I guarantee it. And that's what people default to. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, or, I don't have enough time. I'm a mom of 4. I mean, as you can see, the chaos that goes around in this place some days. I was working a government job, had a part-time business. My ex-partner, my husband at the time, was living in another city, and I was able to get it all done. Busy is a trick of the mind, really. But it might mean that you have to adjust some things and change your priorities and, make your lists a little bit different. But this exercise will help you see what is the actual voice telling you and how is it shutting you down. So if you take a piece of paper here, and there's 3 columns, you won't be able to see them, but I'll tell you what they are. So the first column is your to-do list. And you just write to-do. The middle column is negative voice. And your third column is challenge. And what you're going to do is, and do this as often as you want, several times a day, once a week, it doesn't matter. But this is for any big push that you need to get done in something, or something you feel that you've been stalled on for a long time. It's time for you to get it done. And this exercise will help you do that. So in the first column, to do, you just start writing everything you need to do for that activity. So do you have an example that...
Well, it's funny. I will tell you what I'm working on right now.
Yes.
Because for the past, writer's block comes up for me. So I am saying, what I'm doing currently for my own business is I'm creating a love affair with copy. And
I love it.
This past month, what I've been focusing on is just writing for fun and not for, kind of changing my mindset about it.
Right.
So that's what I put, I'm working on copy. So I'm like, I'll work on copy. This will be good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So your to-do list might look like, 20 minutes of writing, brainstorm ideas, post some things, get it edited, find an editor, like whatever it happens to be that you need to do, or get the graphics to go with the copy. There could be any number of things. Put it out there, advertise it, whatever. So whatever your to-do list is, write it. But as you're writing it, pay attention to the negative voice that's going to pop up, and I guarantee it's there. It's our soundtrack. I often say it's the tape that's playing in your head, which dates me. It's the MP3 or the soundtrack that's going on in your head, and that's what we're capturing. So write down in the middle column at the same time as you're writing a to-do list any negative voice that pops up. So it could be like, you're not a good writer. That was a big thing for me, even though I'm writing a book. I was always told in government that I wasn't a good writer. Well, I probably don't write good for bureaucrats, but that's good because I'm not a bureaucrat. But I had to get past that idea that I wasn't a good writer because I'd heard it for so many years, and I took it on as truth. So the negative voice would be, you're not a good writer, you have no ideas, people don't want to hear from you. Whatever that negative voice is, write it down, and try to write it down exactly as it's being said, because this traces back to somebody saying this to you or an experience you've had. Once you're done the first 2 columns, you move over to the challenge function. And here is where we're really going to get real and take on your subconscious mind, but not up here. It's outside of you, and you can be a little more objective with it. And you just look at the challenge function column and you just say, okay, what is the truth about not having ideas? Do you have ideas? Where did I first hear that I didn't have any? Or maybe it's not that I didn't have any. Maybe I was told that they weren't good ideas. And so if that's what you hear, you just think, when was the first time that I heard that? Or when did this actually become an issue for me? It could be that you wrote an English essay in university and were shot down. It tends to be at younger ages, but the pattern, like, go back as far as you can and then write down what that is beside the challenge function. And then ask yourself, what is the truth? Well, the truth is I actually have lots of ideas. It's just when I go to write them, I don't come up with them. So maybe in that case, an alternative to that is I record myself brainstorming these ideas or talking to someone about my idea, and I record that, and then I get someone or myself and I transcribe it. So whatever the truth ends up being is a challenge to what's really there. And then that becomes your override. So you'll recognize the pattern when you go to do it. Your voice will be like, oh, you don't have any ideas, remember? And you're like, no, wait a minute. I do have ideas, and this is how I'm going to capture them. And, or it becomes something that gets added to the actual to-do list. So you actually record yourself talking about these ideas instead. And what you're doing there is you're taking some things that may be false, is not really a to-do list at all, or not something that you're going to take action on. You're going to challenge the voice, and you're going to be aware of where it's going to pop up in the future. And, or you're going to add some things to the to-do list that actually have to be done. Like for me, for example, I really wanted to, when I did videos, I really wanted to have a tripod and a selfie stick. So I got 2 in 1. But do you know how long that was something that was niggling in the back of my mind, saying you can't do videos because you have that? Such bullshit. I mean, you don't even need this to do the video, first of all. So when I did this exercise myself, I was challenging that idea. Come on, you can do it. And so then when I was done the list, I'm like, okay, just buy a tripod. What's the big deal? And I had it in 2 days off of Amazon, right? So we often make these tolerations or these excuses truth. They become the reason we don't take action. And it feels like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm too busy, or I don't know what I'm doing. All not true. So this exercise helps you do that. And if you think about it in the bedroom, this sounds kind of clinical. It doesn't sound sexy, but it's just really so that we can hear what your voice is saying to you about the sex, about the bedroom, about, I want to try a new position, or I want to, be able to embrace my partner in a new way, or get to go out on a date. And then write down, what is your subconscious saying to you when you're doing that? Well, dirty girls ask for that position. You can't do that. What is he going to think, or whatever? You just write that down and then challenge it. What is he going to think? He might actually be damn well turned on, actually, like it's really sophisticated how it does this, but it can be so frustrating when you look at it and you're like, what was I waiting on? But, there's no need to be frustrated. Its job is to do exactly this, and it's really good at it. So don't feel bad about it. You're just now taking control.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an amazing exercise. I think that is perfect for people to be able to do at home, and to kind of hear, what is my subconscious trying to tell me? How is it trying to sabotage my goals?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would love to, go back to the sexual energy piece for a moment, because and how that relates to success. And I'd love to ask you too, as a busy mom of 4, how you prioritize keeping that sexual energy alive, and what some things you do on a regular basis to kind of keep your sexual energy thriving.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something that especially moms get caught up with, but it's, common with men also. What you have to do is you have to get really real about what turns you on. And it doesn't just mean sexually. What turns me on is that I have my nails done. So for, I think 10 years now, I've been getting my nails done every 3 weeks without compromise. Even when I can remember a number of years, finances were really tight. And I was like, I don't care what we have to give up. I'm not giving this up. And it sounds like little and petty, but I feel so sexy when I look at my hands, because I have my nails done, and it doesn't, I do video and I talk with my hands all the time. So I'm always like, oh, look at those nails, right? There's so many times that we compromise what turns us on, and then we don't have that sexy vibe or that sexual energy. And it's not just about being sexy and getting people to relate to us sexually. It's all about confidence and charisma. If I walk into a room, I own it. I don't even have any doubt about it. But that some of that does come naturally, but you can build that. And it's about, I wear great shoes all the time. In fact, a lot of people that know me, they look at my feet before they look at my face, because I'm always wearing fantastic shoes. But that's something that also turns me on. I put on a great pair of shoes, and they don't have to be high heels necessarily, but I feel, oh, I'm in power. I'm in control here. It can also be, for me, I love bubble baths. So I really make sure at least once a week, if not more, I'm taking time with I'm not drinking as much now, but it would be a glass of champagne or a glass of wine, a sparkling water, anything. and I, take that time and either watch some Netflix if I'm currently Netflix binging or whatever it is. But I put myself in the room and I, whatever it takes. Now, if you're a single mom with really young kids, I realize this can be a challenge. But for me, my kids are older and I'm like, mommy's in the bath for 45 minutes, unless the fire, like the house is burning down, mommy's in the bath for 45 minutes, leave me alone kind of thing. And they just know that that's it. But see, the other thing we have to realize is that by doing this work and showing up for ourselves first, we're modeling that for our children. And that is so important as moms to really know that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. You're showing them that they need to put themselves first, and that is important. What is selfish is expecting people to put up with the way we want to do things without compromise. That's not what we're asking here. We're just saying, I'm going to take 45 minutes in a bubble bath, and that's the way it is. But you have to get real with yourself about this list. Like, what turns you on, even in business or success, money, what turns you on about the idea of money? And people don't usually talk about money in that sense, but really, what turns you on about it? Is it the freedom that it gives you? Is it that you know that you can go buy anything you want? Is it that you can take the kids somewhere? You can sign up for activities? Is it the confidence you have? Is it not swiping your debit card and being like, ooh, please let it go through? Whatever that is, write that down for yourself and then ask yourself, how can I get more of that in my life? And it's really powerful when you can do this and identify this list and don't compromise. Put one or two things a day for yourself that is on this list. It doesn't have to be complicated, guys. It can be as simple as looking yourself in the mirror and admiring your eyes for 30 seconds. I have great eyes. Like whatever it is, but just do something for yourself that has that sexiness to it, that turns you on.
I love that. That's so important. To take that time and really ask yourself, what does turn you on? Like, what is it? I think that's so powerful and easy to do. It's like one of those things. It's simple, maybe not easy, but if you do it, then you just stay in tune with what you need. And
yeah, absolutely. And it can be so like, I had one woman, I do this thing called Central Selfies to help women. I work with a lot of really in control women. So they've worked in either non-traditional female jobs or people who just had to run the show all of their life. Mm-hmm. And so they're really in control. They feel a lot like, if you imagine, go back to my politician example, Hillary Clinton, very in charge, very capable. You know that you can count on them no matter what, but they're not exactly who you think of when you think of sexy or charismatic or charming. And a lot of times these women have been taught that you can't be those things to get where they were. And that may have been true. Like if you're in a political world, if you're sexy, that doesn't go in your favor. We had one female politician here in Canada who can seem very sexy, and she had to fight that all the time. And it's too bad. That has nothing to do with that. But you can be powerful and charismatic at the same time as a woman. So I work with a lot of women that are really in charge that way. And they do not take the time to appreciate their body. And a lot of body image things come in. And it's not just in control women. We are riddled with body image issues. But when I asked her, what turns you on? She's like, well, to be honest, great shoes and nice lingerie. But she did not have a bra and panty that matched. She didn't have anything that she felt sexy in her underwear, unless it was she had one piece of lingerie. And I said, okay, so your task for this week is to go buy one or more, if you want, matching pair of underwear and bra that you feel really sexy in, that you can wear under your clothes to work. She's like, what? I can't do that. I said, yes, you can. So she went and did that. And then in our next session, I was like, I want you to take a picture of your body that is sexy, that you're going to appreciate sexually. And she's like, what? I can't do that. And what we were doing is I was triggering her subconscious mind, all the things that were being said about taking sexy pictures about yourself. That's dirty. You're a slut if you do this. You can't do that kind of thing. And we were able to work through those things. So if you do this exercise, pay attention to what your voice says again, and then, write it down if you can. But what I did is I said, she said, I can't take a selfie. I've never done that. And I said, do it right now while I'm on the phone with you. Go ahead, lean over. And there's so many ways to do these. You know, I should do a course just on this. So she ended up reaching around like this and just taking a picture of the side of her bum where her lace underwear were going up the side. And it was just, all you could see was this much. You couldn't even, unless you looked really carefully, you wouldn't know that was her bum. It was just, you'd think it was a piece of skin with some nice lace laid on it. And she sent it to me. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just sent it to you. I didn't ask her to. She just was inspired to do that. And she's like, holy shit, I look great. Like, that is so sexy. Why haven't I been wearing these panties before? But that instantly lit her up. And she was able to appreciate that her bum is actually really sexy. And she feels really powerful with those underwear on. And nobody at work needs to know. But she was showing up more alive and more like, she said, it's so weird. People started talking to me that wouldn't necessarily have talked to me unless they needed something from me. And she's like, it's so different. And I'm like, because you're showing up with a more turned on energy and people are attracted to that. Doesn't mean they want to have sex with you. It just means that they want some of that good energy that's coming from you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I love that because, oh my gosh, how powerful that is. And I truly believe too, you can only get the love or admiration that you allow yourself to receive. So by giving that to yourself, you're going to definitely get it from others. Yeah. But I love the sensual selfie. I'm a huge lingerie fan. Yeah. And my friends will tell you, I've spent fortunes. There's this store in Denver that I adore. But no matter what I wear, I've always got on the nice lingerie underneath. Yeah. Even when I was nursing, I found this company out of Australia called Hot Milk. Oh. And they made really beautiful nursing lingerie.
Oh my God, I love that. I've never heard of that. I am so going to look them up for any of my friends that are pregnant.
I know, my friends are like, of course you would find Hot Milk. But hey, there's obviously a market for it.
Right, no kidding.
But I love that sensual selfie. So, all right, ladies, I'm going to recommend all of you take a sensual selfie.
Yes, yeah.
Just enjoy it. Send it to your partner. They'll enjoy it, that's for sure.
Exactly. And if you don't feel comfortable sending it, just listen to the voice of why. Why don't you feel comfortable sending it? It could uncover some other things that you really need to deal with, like trust. And it's not that you don't trust your partner, but you may have a fear that you can't trust. And that circles back to shame and guilt or something that happened in your childhood that you have to look at. All of these new experiences are a way to capture what is really going on in your mindset. And then especially when you tap it in with money and sex, because they're two of the most shamed things in the world. I also say to women, like, you can't convince me there's not one part of your body that you can find your love. Take a picture of your fingers here, whatever, your ankle, your earlobe. Bullshit if you try to tell me that you can't find something, because I will show up at your house with a camera and take 1,000 and show you how sexy you are. So just start small. The edge of your lip here, the way it creases your ear, whatever it is, just start that appreciation growing for yourself. Don't let anybody tell you you're not sexy. That's bullshit.
So true. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have just loved talking with you, and I would love if there's any last thing you'd like to share, please feel free. Or, definitely let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the big things, guys, is this doesn't have to be complicated. Our mind makes it so. So anytime that you get stuck on something like this, go back to the to-do exercise, but even just the merits of it is writing it down. So write down what you were trying to achieve, and then just listen to the negative voice, fill it in. Because that conversation is happening all the time in the background anyway. So you're just going to become more and more aware of the ways that you can change this for yourself, and really tune in to how you feel good for yourself. What turns you on? Give yourself permission to accept that. And it doesn't matter what the answer is. It really doesn't. Even just like shaved legs with cream lotion, like lotioning your legs and feeling how that feels. If that's what it is, guys, start with that and grow from there. Sometimes when people say the word sex, they automatically go to like porn and like all this stuff, and they make it this big picture. Take it a step back and just ask yourself, for you, what is it? And then the other thing is to have fun with this, guys. Like, this is fun. This is so powerful. It's really not something that has to be hurtful in any way. So that's what I would leave you guys with. And how to find me, anytime if you Google Mindsex Mentor, mindsexmentor.com. Yes, thank you. She just put it up there. I am on all social media, either with Mindsex Mentor or Delora Guignion.
Beautiful. Yay! Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, it was so great.
To you. And I know we could talk for hours on more things, so I'll probably have to have you back again.
Yeah, I would love that. And if anyone in your group has questions of this, if they watch the replay or whatever, feel free to tag me, guys. I'm excited to be in Amanda's group. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't have any issues. I don't have the shame and guilt, so you can ask me anything.
Yes, and I forgot to say that earlier too. If we didn't get to answer your questions, please ask them. We'll always check and come back and answer the questions in the comments. So ask away, or you can always message either one of us privately, but we're always here to help.
Yes.
And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.